2 years, you know, only to put us back out here and kind of felt like sheep being fed to the wolves. And actually, since we've talked about this story, I've thought about this some more, and I think that even though I'm arguing strongly that competition is a force for good, I think we can turn it into an impetus where we are so focused on competition we forget about people. And that feeling I had, which was why was I not undergirded as strongly as I could have been in the competitive world, could have been a clue to me that I'm very comfortable in the competitive space because I want more of that, and I'm maybe less aware of how do I love and show grace. So here, I don't believe it's a duality, but I think we can make it a duality. And then I'll take that to an example from my working career. And I think this is a little more close to those of you who are going to be graduating soon. You aren't probably so quickly going to be running your organization as Hans has done, but you might be like I was, which was one of a few professionals hired within a hierarchy with a boss, with some administrative staff. Now maybe we don't have administrative staff anymore. It's probably the case. So I come in with 2 other guys, and the boss had a secretary who terrorized us. She just, it was jockeying for position. It was, you think you're smart, but I run the place. And she was right. We did think we were smart, and she ran the place. And so there's a lot of tension without it being said. And finally, our boss was wise and basically said, you know, Beth, you're the adult. Actually, this person was older than all of us. But he's saying, you know, step up. Not a believer, just step up. And at one point, I don't know what made me think of it, because to use the word persecution here really, really understates what actual persecution is in the world right now. But from my little position, I felt persecuted, and so I started praying for her. She ended up being my best friend over years at this place. And so it's just a small little example of bring what God says to bear on your daily life, and you'd be amazed at how things turn around.
You know, thinking about the long view, I had the blessing, privilege of being the 3rd generation in a company that's 95 years old, and Leah and I live on a property now that has this big, elaborate kind of native rock installment, and it's property that my grandfather built a home on, and all those rocks were drilling crews that were out of work, but he just kind of kept finding stuff for them to do, and we kind of let it go. But it's a great testimony. And so today, oil prices are in half of what they were 6 months ago. We've got all this idle equipment, and at really great cost to us, we go to great lengths. They're not building rock gardens, but we go to great lengths to keep guys retained on the rig, to keep them in the warehouse, to have them painting stuff, to have them, you know, the deal is, hey, for 100 days we can keep you at your rig manager level, but you'll be a floor hand, or you'll be a warehouseman. After 100 days, you'll go to a warehouseman's wages. Investors on Wall Street say, what are you doing? Everyone else is boldly cutting prices. And we say, well, no, that's a short-term fix, because that now warehouseman is going to be running one of our rigs a year from now when it goes back to work. And yeah, it hurts our earnings, but it's the cheapest cost we have right now, because those are guys that we have trained, that know the business better than anybody else. And so it's a great value and payoff to our investors. My wife and I are celebrating our 35th wedding anniversary. She and I live at Sachem Village, so we're driving around seeing the trees they knocked down of ours. I say to people, it's the best 35 years of my life. She says, well, I've had 7, 8 really good years in my life. I'm not sure how she's aggregating. We've got a son getting married, and we're selling him on the long view. We're selling him less on being in love and what a great honeymoon they're going to have. We're selling them more on commitment and selling out and laying your life down for somebody else. Not in a short-term way, but in a long-term way. And it's back to people watch our lives and they're gleaning from us. And we make tons of mistakes. But I think people, hopefully, Eric said this morning, people know if you believe. And they do. And we have an opportunity to, hopefully in a small way, reflect God's person in us in the workplace by having a long view. I think the long view is an important part.
Let's talk more about the long view. Because I think you guys are seeing where this is all heading, right? Where the properly equipped Christian in the business world understands the difference between the short and the long-term view. And part of the long-term view is understanding what it comes down to, what Sarah reminded us at the beginning of this talk. It comes down to people. And how we deal with people. It comes down to people, thank you. And how we deal with people in our personal lives, in our business lives, it's all the same, right? It all takes us to the same place. And people issues are very big issues in companies. Those of you who are in them or run them know this. Let's talk about that. I want to get into all the guts and glory, right? Firing people, hiring people. Let's talk about how do you fire somebody who's great?
Well, that's actually a good story, so we'll try that one. That gives the other two lots of time to get a good one. So let's think about something. I want to just go back just briefly and then remind me of the question. But I want to go back and just talk about competition because I think it's really important to make a couple of points that I think are very valuable. First of all, and I think that Beth said it, competition can be very stimulative. It can be very valuable. It can push you to greater heights, and there's a lot of positive about it. But it also can be very ugly, and we see it in sports as a perfect example, where people cheat to succeed. And we've seen that in the steroids era of baseball, where people accumulated great wealth and notoriety, and they were cheating. Where other people were doing their job as they were supposed to, and they didn't get that notoriety, didn't get that paycheck. So we get lots of visible indication that competition can go awry. So how do you wrestle this competitive spirit that's positive and good and put it to the benefit of the company? And I think it has to do with setting boundaries. It's leadership. It's exempling to your people, here's how we are going to compete. This is how we're going to beat AT&T, or we're going to beat whoever the competitor is. This is how we're going to do it. We're going to have a strategy. People are going to work together and pull together. We're going to articulate how to do it. And most importantly, you as the leader are going to example 3 things. By your conduct, by your character, and by your conversation. You're going to constantly set these boundaries as to what we're doing from a competitive standpoint. That to me is the most essential way to get out of people the motivation that competition will give us, but put it as a positive force. And lead us most importantly as a team. What I find in business today still is a challenge, is individuals who go outside of the boundaries, who go outside of the leadership and leading their team in a way that frankly you wouldn't want to be led. You don't want to be a participant. You know it's not right, but you're being led by an executive who's saying, that's what we're doing. And that's a huge struggle. That's going to be a struggle for your faith when you decide, I can't abide by how I'm being led. I know that the competition is making us successful. Maybe my stock's going up. Wow, that's a great feeling. But at the end of the day, I don't go home at night feeling that I worked at a place that I can respect and that I'm really getting a lot out of. challenges for us as we look at the business. So this is your moment to remind me of your question, because I was just zooming on that. And
I
then,
was hoping that would come up. That was a
Absolutely.
very good important point. But speaking of boundaries, part of the boundaries is you set them for your employees.
Right.
You hire people who demonstrated some aptitude to be able to comply to those boundaries, and sometimes they don't.
So, let me just finish the thing and get Hans and Betsy. Look, sometimes to make your team understand what the boundaries are, you have what I would call, sorry for the phrase, public hangings. Now, a public hanging is a sense that somebody has to be pointed out as having done the wrong thing. And they may be removed from the company because of that. And a perfect example in a business environment is when you cheat on your expenses. There's nothing more egregious to me than stealing the company's money. You're on our team. You submitted a fraudulent expense report and expected us to give you that money. You're basically taking that money from the rest of the team. Why? Because you just needed it, or you're a cheat, or whatever it is that you're dealing with. So the tough part about that is you have to let that